Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. And first off, addressing the elephant in the room, I did get a haircut. The flow is absolutely gone. I'm back to rocking the egghead. But second off, and far more important, it was announced last Friday that NHL players are heading back to the Olympics for the first time since 2014. And obviously, people, this is a massive, massive story, as well as having that Four Nations Cup in 2025, which now kind of looks irrelevant now that we have the Olympics in 2026. So I thought today I would start a little series of predicting what the 2026 rosters are going to look like for the Olympics. And of course, I'm going to start off with my home country of the United States. So with these rosters, I am going to go through it line by line, 1 through 4, then pair by pair, all 3 pairs, give you my goalie tandem as well as my 5 extras that are allotted when it comes to the Olympics. And this was tough. There's a lot of guys that I had to end up leaving off, but I really do like this team, and you're going to see with the lines and the pairs. This isn't necessarily the best players on the highest lines. I do prioritize stuff like chemistry and overall team building because, yes, there might be some offensive studs I leave off, but when it comes to a bottom pair or a bottom line, you might want a more defensive guy that can kind of play into his role. So without further ado, let's get into the first line. In the first line, I have Matthew Tkachuk, Austin Matthews, and Tage Thompson. Obviously, Austin Matthews, as of right now, with the way he's playing, best goal scorer in the entire NHL. He's going to be your first line center. Matthew Tkachuk, although he's not having a fantastic season compared to last year, I still think he is the best winger on this United States team, on this United States roster. So I think him and Matthews can play really good together. Fantastic playmakers. And then you got a guy like Tage Thompson, who is a great sniper. I'm not sure I would put Tage Thompson on the center with this team United States because it is very deep down the middle, and Tage Thompson isn't the best defensively. He's definitely taken strides in his defensive game this year, much better than prior years. But I have Tage Thompson playing kind of in that right wing. So you look at it, Matthews, fantastic playmaker and great goal scorer. Tage Thompson, great goal scorer, definitely has playmaking to his game. And then Matthew Tkachuk, just a dirty, gritty player that is also fantastic in terms of playmaking. I think this would be my first line as of right now for the United States. Second line, Jason Robertson, Jack Hughes, Jack Eichel. Jason Robertson, similarly to Tkachuk, having a bit of a down year, but he is still absolutely fantastic. A great, not necessarily a power forward, but a taller forward that could play fantastic with a guy like Jack Hughes, especially off the rush. Jack Hughes, top 10 player in the entire NHL, playing with these two guys that have such fantastic shots, as well as Jack Eichel and Jason Robertson have fantastic shots. Him playing off them, I think, would form a very formidable line when looking at this second line. The third line, JT Miller, Kyle Connor, and Clayton Keller. This would definitely be a scoring third line, not a ton of defense between guys like Keller, Connor, and Miller, but I think this line would absolutely light it off. A guy like a Clayton Keller that is a fantastic playmaker, has absolutely carried lines in the past on the Arizona Coyotes. You have your sniper in a Kyle Connor, and then a guy in JT Miller that is, the underlying numbers don't suggest that he is this amazing player, but back 2 out of the last 3 years, he's going to put up north of 99 points. He is fantastic, and he has definitely earned his spot on this Team USA, assuming he doesn't fall off in the next 2 years. And as for Kyle and Keller, obviously they're still going to be in the midst of their prime. Fourth line, we got Dylan Larkin, Alex DeBrincat, Brady Tkachuk. I know there's some bad blood between the Ottawa Senators and the Detroit Red Wings, but Tkachuk does have some chemistry with DeBrincat, and obviously Larkin and DeBrincat have been a fantastic duo this year for the Detroit Red Wings. And in terms of defensive play, I think Dylan Larkin is one of the better two-way centers in the entire NHL. Alex DeBrincat, not necessarily known for his defense, and Brady Tkachuk really fitting into that fourth line grinder, physical role, I think could work for this Team United States on this fourth line. Yes, you could put in maybe a guy like Jake Gensel on the fourth line instead of a Brady Tkachuk, but I think Brady Tkachuk on more of a fourth line physical line like this would be, I think fits the role, and especially with the chemistry the overlapping chemistry between Tkachuk and DeBrincat and Larkin and DeBrincat is definitely something to consider, considering the fact they have played together, and in these Olympics, you're not going to have massive time to build up in terms of getting chemistry. When it comes to the first pair, I went with Quinn Hughes and Charlie McAvoy. Yes, Adam Fox is also a right-handed defenseman, but I think Quinn Hughes being with Charlie McAvoy makes a lot more sense than Fox. Fox and Quinn Hughes like to stretch the puck. They like to get up in the play. Versus Charlie McAvoy also has came a long way in terms of his offensive production and overall offensive play. But McAvoy, like the first 4 years in Boston, can be more of that stay-home defenseman with a guy like Quinn Hughes. So I think the more defensive defenseman with a guy like Quinn Hughes that is so effective this year with stretching out the puck and getting up on the rush, I think that makes more sense for a first pair. Maybe at the end of the game, you put Fox and Hughes together, but I think for most situations, I think McAvoy and Hughes do make more sense. On that second pair, similar thought process here. Slavin will be, I think, 30 or 31, but I think he's still going to be fantastic defensively. Then you pair him with a guy like Adam Fox that can do it both ways. I think them together would be absolutely lockdown. This would be maybe their lockdown pair, even though Quinn Hughes and Charlie McAvoy in their own right are very good defensively. I think this pair would be a sneaky, fantastic pair given their play styles together. On to the third pair, Brock Faber and Jake Sanderson. I know this might be controversial, but when looking at it compared to a guy like a Luke Hughes that's also left-handed, I think Sanderson and Faber make a lot of sense when looking at similarly to that fourth line. What are we talking about when it comes to roles? I'd rather have guys like Faber and Sanderson that are far more reliable defensively based on what we've seen from them at the NHL level than compared to a Luke Hughes that doesn't have the best defensive numbers. We don't know in the next 2 years if his defensive game will come that far. So although Hughes has definitely more offensive potential than a Sanderson, I like this pair. I think this would be a very responsible pair. You're only going to be trusting these guys to play 15, 16 minutes a night. So I want guys that I can absolutely trust in their own defensive end. I don't need my third pair absolutely lighting it up offensively. They're probably going to be deployed in the defensive zone a shit ton. So I think this third pair makes a lot of sense for this United States team. In terms of goalies, Connor Hellebuck, Thatcher Demko, I think this makes the most sense. These guys are not that old, so in 2 years, they're still going to be probably playing at the top of their game. Hellebuck has been a top 5 goalie for the past 7 years. I don't think he's going to fall off out of nowhere. And as for Thatcher Demko, I think he's either 27 or 28, so again, still going to be an elite guy. They have been the number 1 and number 2 goalies in the entire NHL this year. You can make an argument for Swayman. You can make an argument for Ottinger. In 2 years, they might be better. But right now, I'm going to bank on these guys that have been pretty consistent the past 3 to 4 years. Demko had a bad stretch at the start of last year. But I think right now, Connor Hellebuck, Thatcher Demko, that is your goalie tandem going into 2026. In terms of extras, got Luke Hughes. I think he's going to continue to progress. He's going to be a top 30 defenseman in the entire NHL, probably come 2026. Zach Werenski, I think he's a very underrated guy. Do I have him cracking my lineup? No, not yet. Right now, he's going to be either 28 or 29. Still going to be an elite player. Matthew Boldy, there might be better offensive options. I'll get to it when I talk about the snubs. But I think Matthew Boldy's, especially in 2 years, he's already one of the best defensive wingers in the entire NHL. So I think in terms of a guy that can come in and not demand this massive role, I think in terms of fitting their role, I think Matthew Boldy's going to be a really good shout. Jake Gensel, he's going to be 31. But again, this guy has consistently been putting up, like 40 goals, 40 assists, basically the last 4 or 5 years. So unlike a Matthew Boldy, if one of the top dogs, like say if Matthew Tkachuk or Jason Robertson get hurt, I think you can easily flex a Jake Gensel into that role in terms of an offensive standpoint to get you goals. I don't think he's going to fall off in the next 2 years. And then Jeremy Swayman. I went with Jeremy Swayman over Jake Ottinger. Jake Ottinger's just not playing that good this year. I think it's going to be a battle in 2026 between Swayman, Demko, and honestly Hellebuck and Ottinger in terms of those 2 goalie spots. The U.S. is absolutely loaded in terms of goaltending, but right now I would lean, I think, Swayman based on the fact he's gotten better the last 3 years. Meanwhile, Ottinger got better the 3 prior years, but has taken a massive step back this year. As of right now, I would probably have Jeremy Swayman as that third goalie, potentially in that goalie tandem. So when looking at it before we get to the snubs, first line, Tkachuk, Matthews, Thompson. Absolute offensive unit. You're racking up goals with that. Robertson, Hughes, Eichel, also just fantastic. Then you got your third line scoring line, Connor, Miller, Keller. Their fourth line, Tkachuk, Hellebuck, Tkachuk, Larkin, DeBrincat, first pair, Hughes, McAvoy, nice and balanced, Slavin, Fox, Sanderson, Faber, and then you got Demko and Hellebuck. In terms of snubs, let me pull up the snubs right now. In terms of snubs, we were obviously talking about guys like Brock Besser. I know I'm going to get a lot of shit for not having him on this team, but when looking at it, I think he's going to be a good player in the next 2 years, but this year is probably a career year for Brock Besser. I don't expect him to be a consistent 45-goal guy. I think he's going to be maybe solid low 30s and low 30s, but Canucks are just having an insane season, and he's shooting like 24% at this point. Similarly, Sam Reinhart might end up being on my team candidate, but I don't think I'm going to have Sam Reinhart on the goddamn first line. Other guys, Cole Caulfield. On a team like this, Cole Caulfield might have the offensive talents in 2 years to play on this team, but in terms of a two-way guy, he's probably going to be in that bottom six. I don't trust Cole Caulfield to be reliable defensively. Noah Hannafin could potentially be on the team, but I like the 8 defensemen that I have over him. Logan Cooley, if he takes a massive step the next 2 years, he could definitely be on it. I put Joe Pavelski as an honorable mention. If he doesn't fall off the next 2 years, if he's exactly what he is now, I would probably throw him on like the 4th line just because he is so responsible both ways and is a veteran, but he's going to be 41 at the 2026 Olympics. So I got to assume he's going to fall off a little bit. Then Troy Terry, also a guy that you could potentially have. Alex Tuck. John Carlson's going to be 35, so I ended up not going with him. And a guy like Chris Kreider, I also assume will not be the player that he is today in 2 years. So those are my snubs. That's my team. Let me know in the comments, what do you think and what team should I do next? And I'll be seeing the next one.